RP X, RP Peep, RP Mac. You're in heaven, no relax. This shit got me tearing up.
Good, y'all. I'm Jerry. Today I'm about to check out 10 most evil pro wrestlers of all time. I don't know who the wrestlers are out of these 10, so I know this is another video about WrestleMania, so let's hop into the video.
Unfortunately, there are some pro wrestlers who have done heinous things in their lifetime, from criminal acts to abusing positions of power. Now, unfortunately, we're going to look at 10 of the most evil pro wrestlers of all time. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive.
I'm kind of anxious to see who these evil wrestlers are. I know they're going to probably have Chris Benoit in the video. Just off the top of my head.
Grizzly Smith was the father of legendary wrestler Jake the Snake
Grizzly
Roberts.
Smith?
Although Smith was a talented wrestler, his conduct in his personal life made him one of the most detested pro wrestlers of all time. Smith led a life of abuse and torment, so much so that Smith abused a 13-year-old girl, which led to Roberts being conceived. Smith's treatment of Roberts throughout Roberts' childhood meant that Roberts turned to alcohol and drugs, and this is a battle that Roberts has only recently overcome. Number 9, Bob Sweetan. Considered to be one of the most criticized wrestlers of all time, Bob Sweetan was loathed by virtually everyone he worked with. Legendary ring announcer Jim Ross once described Sweetan as a miserable human being and someone who nobody wanted to be around. In 1990, Sweetan was convicted of sexually assaulting his own daughter, which truly made him one of the most evil individuals to ever step foot in the wrestling ring.
That's sick right
his
there.
ex-wife once described Sweetan as a waste of skin as far as I'm concerned.
Damn.
He fried his brain with drugs, deserted his children, abused them emotionally, physically, sexually, and mentally. Number 8, Bill Watts.
He must have gone through some
The removal
stuff.
of Bill Watts as Executive Vice President of WCW was rather controversial. Watts had made some rather crude public comments in relation to minority groups, which no doubt made the skin crawl of a number of WCW superstars. During an interview with PW Torch, Watts stated, "If you want a business and put your money in, why shouldn't you be able to discriminate? It's your business. If free enterprise is going to make or break it, should you be able to discriminate? It should be that, by God. And if you're going to open the doors in America, you can discriminate. Why the F not?" The full interview is just far worse, that we can't even put it on YouTube. Number 7, Buck ZUMHOFE. And for those not aware of Buck ZUMHOFE, he was an enhancement talent for WWE back in the 80s and 90s. He was notably the first person that The Undertaker ever put in a body bag, and he was even Triple H's first ever opponent in WWE. Wrestling career aside, Buck is a convicted sex offender. He was first jailed in the summer of '86 after he was found guilty of misconduct involving a minor. He was then arrested back in 2013 and was charged with multiple charges of misconduct, including abusing his own daughter. In 2014, Buck was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Number 6, Bill DeMott.
I know he
never found
Bill
too much
DeMott
success as a pro wrestler.
Sucked
He did,
as a human
found
being.
great success as a trainer, so much so that he was the head
He
trainer
abused
for
all the people
FCW
in
and NXT.
FCW.
DeMott seemed to have a solid reputation as a head trainer, but this was until 2015 when a number of allegations of DeMott abusing his power for his own gain surfaced. It was revealed that DeMott had verbally and physically abused talents throughout his career, and that he even used a number of racist and homophobic insults towards talent. One rather disturbing story involved DeMott insisting that talent strip naked and perform stink faces on fellow trainees. Former trainee Kevin Matthews was extremely open in relation to DeMott's training methods, and he would state that DeMott made the place a living hell for anyone who was a part of his clique. He even described DeMott as a rather disturbed, delusional bipolar man who needs to seek professional help ASAP. In March of 2015, DeMott resigned from WWE in order to save WWE from any public embarrassment. He also denied all the allegations made towards him, but when DeMott appeared on the episode of Talk is Jericho, DeMott would state that you're either going to hang or you're not. It's not to break you down, it's to prepare you. DeMott has been virtually blacklisted from the wrestling industry since 2015. Number 5, the Dynamite Kid. Now, although the Dynamite Kid is often cited as one of the greatest in-ring talents to ever come out of the UK, there are a number of rather barbaric acts which overshadow everything that Dynamite achieved during his wrestling career. He was known to abuse his first wife, Michelle Smadu, and this was depicted on an episode of Dark Side of the Ring. In the episode,
ironically, that's Chris Benoit's favorite wrestler right there.
To her head, and she was actually fearful that he was going to kill her.
Damn.
Michelle would state, "He lost his mind.
He put a gun to her head.
Kind of hold in my jaw when the kids were there. She'd never seen anything like this. They were crying. I'm trying to act like, no, Daddy's having a moment. It's going to be fine. He's going to leave." He goes, "No, I think you should effing go." I was like, "I'm the one pregnant. I'm the one with a toddler. All my stuff is here. All their clothes are here." He went downstairs and got a gun and said, "If you're not out of here in 15 minutes, I'm going to blow your head off." I was like, "No, you're not." He's like, "I will." Michelle and Dynamite divorced the same year as this incident, and she thankfully managed to live a happy life away from the abuse and torment.
That's what's
Number
up.
4, Abdullah the Butcher. And one of the things that wasn't mentioned during Abdullah the Butcher's Hall of Fame induction in 2011 was the fact that he knowingly wrestled with Hep C. In 2006, Abdullah was wrestling Hannibal, and following the match, he contracted Hep C, and as a result, he decided to sue Abdullah for knowingly infecting him with the disease. Abdullah's actions showed he never cared about anyone he was in the ring with, and he didn't care about the fact that he was willingly spreading a potentially life-altering disease. Number 3, José Gonzalez. The murder of Bruiser Brody is one of the most well-known stories in pro wrestling. The person responsible for his death was allegedly José Gonzalez, who shockingly never served any jail time for the murder. This occurred back in the summer of 1988, as Brody was stabbed backstage during a wrestling event in Puerto Rico. Gonzalez was acquitted of the crime after a jury accepted that he was acting in self-defense. Gonzalez faced no punishment whatsoever, and he continued to wrestle for a number of years in what would become one of the most controversial and wrongful incidents in pro wrestling history. Number 2, Fabulous Moolah. WWE likes to present the Fabulous Moolah as one of the key figures in women's wrestling, but Moolah led a life of
She's the escort women, had women escort for her.
She helped. Man Maxine, who was trained by Moolah, appeared on the Two-Man Power Trip podcast in 2021 and had this to say in relation to Moolah's actions. I don't feel like I knew Moolah as well as the others who were trained by her. She has her staunch defenders, and that's great, and I'm sure she had some people she treated well, but I wasn't one of them. If you judged her on her actions, then she wasn't a great person. I think she took advantage of the girls that trained under her. She would send out some of the girls out to the men, and those men would pay Moolah to have sex with some of those male wrestlers. She tried to get me to do that, and I spoke to the guy point blank. What are you expecting here? It was pretty obvious to me that it was a situation where Moolah was pimping out some of the girls. Not all of the girls, because I've heard from some of them that it wasn't their experience, but I know firsthand she did pimp out some of the girls. It was definitely my experience, and I wasn't the only one. In 2018, it was announced that WWE would host a Women's Battle Royal in Moolah's name and honor at WrestleMania 34. However, they would be forced to remove Moolah's association with the Battle Royal after fan outrage to WWE promoting Moolah in such a positive light over social media. Even WrestleMania sponsor Snickers reportedly got involved and insisted that they didn't want to be associated with a woman that performed such terrible acts. And number 1, Chris Benoit.
Of course, Chris Benoit.
Benoit was beloved by fans, and he was well established for being one of the greatest technical wrestlers to ever lace up a pair of wrestling boots. But sadly, his remorseless actions in 2007 erased Benoit's existence from the history books. As quite rightly, WWE didn't want to associate with a man who committed such a horrible deed. Although fans may wish to try and remember Benoit's work in WWE and the memories he created, his actions during his final days are simply too disturbing to ignore, and his memory will be forever tainted. There you have it, folks. 10 of the most evil pro wrestlers of all time. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.
I tried another great video, man. Some of this stuff was just wrong, man. Such as Abdullah the Butcher, knowing that he has hepatitis and continues to wrestle, and at that time they was bleeding real bad back then, and he was sharing blood with a lot of people, so there was a criminal offense right there. And the guy who killed supposedly acted in self-defense, killed that guy in Mexico, was just a horrific crime right there, man. And just everything else that happened in this video that WrestleMania talked about was just messed up, man. But anyway, let me know what y'all thought of the video, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.